and the future one. We have every angle covered for you, starting with CNN Justice correspondent Evan Perez. He's here with us this morning, and you were in front of the news that the White House knew that Russia was behind these hackings and did not act from as far back in July.
That's right, Chris. We're learning that Russian spy agencies deployed sophisticated hacking tools, the kind used by the NSA, to break into U.S. political organizations in the past year. U.S. officials tell CNN that this is part of the reason why intelligence officials believe that Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered the disinformation operation that targeted mostly Democratic Party groups and the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign. Now, investigators haven't found any evidence directly linking back to Putin, but officials believe that because of the nature of the operation, he would have had to give orders to do what to do with these stolen emails. Now, in recent weeks, intelligence agencies have collected more evidence, including from human sources, to back up their assessments first made in October that only the most senior members of the Russian government could have ordered this operation. So how's the U.S. government going to respond to all of this? President Obama talked about it in an interview with NPR. Take a listen.
I think there is no doubt that when any foreign government tries to impact the integrity of our elections, that we need to take action, and we will, at a time and place of our own choosing. Some of it may be explicit and publicized, some of it may not be. But Mr. Putin is well aware of my feelings about this because I spoke to him directly about it.
Now, a Kremlin spokesman says that the Russian leader gave a response to President Obama that doesn't really fit with the U.S. narrative. Officials tell us that the president has ordered government agencies to give him a range of actions that he can take before he leaves office. Now, in the meantime, the hacking hasn't stopped. Law enforcement officials tell CNN that the FBI is now investigating hacking attempts after the election that were targeting former Clinton campaign staffers. A campaign official tells CNN that they've received security notices as recently as last week, indicating attempts to get into their private email accounts. Now, officials say that despite Russian expectations of better relations with the incoming Trump administration, they fully expect that the Russian hacking activity is going to continue largely unabated. Allison?
Okay, Evan, thanks so much for all of that reporting. So Russian hacks are not new, and now foreign defense officials and a former head of state are saying, I told you so. CNN senior international correspondent Ivan Watson is live in Kiev with more. What have you learned, Ivan?
Good morning, Allison. That's right. A number of high-ranking officials and former officials from former Soviet republics all saying that they had previously warned the U.S. government that their countries had been the target for years of what they believed to have been Russian cyber attacks and Russian other forms of hybrid warfare. I spoke with the former president of the Republic of Georgia, who accuses Russia of meddling in Georgia's 2012 parliamentary elections. Take a listen to an excerpt from that interview.
Well, I almost was like vindicated when the same administration in Washington suddenly started to speak about Russian involvement in elections, because for me it's a deja vu. They were the same people telling us, no, it cannot possibly be true. And now it came to their doorsteps.
Now, Allison, I'm here in Ukraine announcing that it has just recently been targeted by at least 10 major cyber attacks, including today the infrastructure ministry, and its website was taken down. Now, they haven't pointed the finger directly at Russia yet, but last December they did point the finger at Russia for a hack attack, a cyber attack that took down electricity to more than 100 cities across this country and partial electricity to more than 150 other cities across Ukraine. Of course, Ukraine is currently fighting a war against separatists that are supported by neighboring Russia. Allison and Chris?
And Ivan, as important as that point is that you made there in the last, that's something that Russia also denied, the same way it's denying the hacks right now by saying put up the proof, otherwise leave it alone. Thank you very much for your reporting from Ukraine. So how might this back and forth between Trump and the White House over the apparent hacking impact the peaceful transition of power? CNN's Sarah Murray is here with the latest. What do you see?
Good morning, Chris. Well, everyone was playing nice at the get-go. Hillary Clinton said we need to give Donald Trump a chance as president. President Obama made it clear he did want to see a peaceful and orderly transition of power. But now a rift is emerging, and we're seeing the president-elect exchanging barbs with the White House press secretary. A week of Russia revelations and Donald Trump's denials, creating a rift between incoming and outgoing administrations.
This foolish guy, Josh Earnest.
The president-elect taking shots at President Obama's press secretary.
He is so bad, the way he delivers a message. He can deliver a positive message, and it sounds bad. He could say, ladies and gentlemen, today we have totally defeated ISIS, and it wouldn't sound good.
Lashing out after the White House sharply criticized Trump's continued dismissal of intelligence about Moscow's election meddling.
Mr. Trump obviously knew that Russia was engaged in malicious cyber activity that was helping him and hurting Secretary Clinton's campaign.
The president's very positive, but he's not positive. And I mean, maybe he's getting his orders from somebody else.
Russia putting a strain on the roller coaster relationship between Trump and Obama. The two attempting a show of unity for a smooth transition after a bitter campaign. Now, tensions rising between the camps, fueled in part by Trump's tweet accusing the White House of only complaining about the hacking after Hillary Clinton lost. But in fact, in early October, the intelligence community was saying they were, quote, confident Russia was behind the DNC hacks. Clinton herself addressing the hacking for the first time since the election, telling donors that Russian President Vladimir Putin's grudge against her prompted the attack against the DNC. This, as Clinton's former campaign chair, John Podesta, penned a scathing rebuke of the FBI's handling of the hacks. Writing in the Washington Post, when the FBI discovered the Russian attack in September 2015, it failed to send even a single agent to warn senior Democratic National Committee officials. Adding, something is deeply broken at the Bureau. Podesta's criticism echoed by outgoing Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid.
I think that it's about time that Comey acknowledged publicly what a disservice he's rendered to our country by doing nothing except interfering with the election. He became such a partisan that he should become the new chair of the RNC.
Now, in spite of Podesta's claims, sources tell CNN that federal investigators reached out to the DNC, including senior officials there, repeatedly to warn them about hacking attempts. And they say that the Democratic Party did not take efforts to remedy this situation until months after those warnings.
Okay, Sarah, thanks so much. You've given us a lot to talk about. So joining us now is a great panel. We have CNN senior political analyst and senior editor for The Atlantic, Ron Brownstein, CNN political analyst and USA Today columnist Kirsten Powers, and CNN senior law enforcement analyst and former FBI assistant director Tom Fuentes. Great to have all of you. Ron, let's just talk about this rift that has emerged between the Obama administration and the Trump transition over Russia. You heard Mr. Trump there going after Josh Earnest. What does all of this mean?
Well, first of all, I don't think we have seen anything quite like it. I mean, the pattern of kind of biting your lip, no matter how unhappy you are about the election result, and being civil toward the incoming and outgoing administrations, being civil toward each other, really is the rule in American politics. And we are seeing, I think, just a kind of a rift or a scene being pulled that we haven't seen before. But how many times have we said that in the last year? And look, I think it does increase the incentive for the Obama administration to be as aggressive as they can in both investigating what happened and making public their view of what happened. Because I think what you saw above all in the Josh Earnest comments was the concern that Donald Trump was still not taking this as seriously as it needed to be viewed.
Right, and then Mr. Trump counterpunched, as he is known to do. So once Josh Earnest put that out there, then Donald Trump felt that he could sort of personally attack Josh Earnest. Something else interesting happened, Kirsten, last night, and that was that Hillary Clinton, who has not been seen much, obviously, since losing the election, she went to this thank you dinner for her fundraisers, and she talked about Russia's meddling in the election. Her theory is that Russia, and Vladimir Putin in particular, has long been angry with her since 2011 when she made comments about the elections there not being free and fair, and that is why they retaliated directly against her to make her lose.
Well, she also, she was an advocate of getting tougher on Russia. She had sent, in one of her last memos before she left as Secretary of State, she had suggested, in fact, that the Obama administration snub Putin, that they should not flatter him, the kind of things I think we've seen from Donald Trump a little bit. So, yes, it certainly appears that they were trying to help Donald Trump. Now, the question is, did they help Donald Trump? And it doesn't appear that this was actually a major factor in the election. That doesn't mean it's not a serious issue. I think it should be investigated. I think we need to look at what the FBI was doing, the things that John Podesta brought up, for example, and I think we need to be much more extensive hearings on this issue. But I do think there's a problem with suggesting that this was determinative in the election. Even the Clinton campaign has really pointed more at FBI Director Comey's letter as being more, of having a direct impact. Now, whether that's true or not, we can set that aside, but that's their argument. There's not a lot of argument that the leaked memos were determinative in changing the election.
Well, I mean
the leaked emails, sorry.
Yeah, I hear you, but John Podesta sees it as part and parcel of all of the same thing. And Tom, that's where you come in. And I know for the past couple of days I've been making you be sort of the voice of the FBI because you worked there for years, and I'm making you explain any and all possible ills at the FBI. So here, let's do it again, because basically what John Podesta is saying is that when the FBI learned and believed for sure that Russia was meddling, that they did not handle it in any sort of line. Here's what he wrote in his op-ed. He says, comparing the FBI's massive response to the overblown email scandal and the seemingly lackadaisical response to the very real Russian plot to subvert a national election shows that something is deeply broken at the FBI. Comey justified his handling of the email case by citing intense public interest, yet he refused to join the rest of the intelligence community in a statement about the Russian cyber attack because he reportedly didn't want to appear political. What's broken in the FBI must be fixed, and quickly. Tom, your response.
Well, first of all, the FBI did warn, and of course the FBI would be briefing the White House continuously through the process of what type of hacking is going on against U.S. systems or involving the political process of the campaigns. And we've seen this repeatedly, the hacking of OPM, believed to be by the Chinese, the Sony attack by North Korea. So, we
So Tom, let me just stop you there. So you're saying that the FBI would have briefed the Obama White House, but you don't know if they briefed the Clinton campaign.
I don't know it directly whether they did. My understanding from talking to some people was that that it was, and that they did brief, and that later on the Democratic National Committee did hire a company, crowdsourced, to do something about it this past summer. But the point is that this kind of hacking has been going on a long time, and it's normal tradecraft, especially with the Russians, to try to disrupt our elections, no matter who they're for, just to create a disruption.
So, does that mean no biggie?
I didn't say no biggie. I'm just saying that this is what they normally do, and apparently, we've had hack after hack in the last couple of years where there was no real response to it.
Go ahead, Ron.
No, what John Podesta, I think, was responding to was the detailed account in the New York Times, and maybe there's more to the story, but certainly in that detailed reconstruction of the hack and the response to it, there was no urgency on the part of the FBI, and it went for months between, in that account, relatively lower level officials at the FBI and the DNC both failing to take this seriously enough. And, look, the issue here is not, as I said, not necessarily, its impact in terms of tipping this election. It's unlikely that that was the factor that tipped this election. But you do have, really, I think, an unprecedented level of meddling and a precedent, as you've been talking about in your coverage. We have consequential elections coming this year in France and Germany that will also be important in the future of the Western alliance. And it's clear that Putin's goal, one of Putin's goals here, is to unravel the Western alliance, the U.S.-European alliance from both ends. And, they've got to look at this investment in the U.S. and say, this is a pretty good strategy at the moment.
Kirsten, very quickly, I mean, what Podesta is saying is that the agents took time to travel to Denver to check in with the people who managed Hillary Clinton's server, yet they couldn't travel a few blocks to alert the DNC that they had been hacked. That's basically John Podesta's point. Is it fair? there.
If the reporting is true that all they did was call the IT desk and that they didn't just get in the car and drive the 10 minutes over to the DNC to talk to people, that's highly problematic. And I think if you add in the fact of the Comey letter, which I also found to be pretty problematic, that there needs to be some sort of investigation into what's going on. I don't understand why there wouldn't have been hair on fire screaming about the idea that Russia would be hacking into the Democratic National Committee.
Okay, Kirsten, Ron, Tom, thank you very much for helping to explain all of this. Chris.
Thank you.
Situations often can have simple aspects and complex aspects. The conflicts facing the President-elect of the United States is a perfect example. The conflicts are real. So will the President-elect divest from his companies? Probably not. So why are ethics experts calling for that? Why are they saying that these conflicts are a powder keg?